You're listening to the Edible Valley Podcast, episode 210.
On this episode, we're talking macaroni and cheese. Do you ever wonder where your food comes from? That's what got us started on this adventure.
In each episode, we ask experts to weigh in on the food topics that matter to you, from growers to producers to chefs.
And I challenge John, Darren, and you to learn more about your food and the stories behind it. From our hub on Vancouver Island in the beautiful Comox Valley, join us as we explore our edible valley. And a very good afternoon, very good morning, or very good night, whenever or wherever you are listening to this from. How are you doing? It is the Edible Valley Podcast, episode 210. My name is William. I'm the producer.
I'm chef and host Jonathan Frazier.
And I'm an interesting fellow, according to Will.
He's an interesting chap. Should we just relay everything we were talking about?
Yeah, sure. Why not? This is...
You don't want to know. And today we are talking about macaroni. Macaroni cheese and macaroni, but a focus on macaroni cheese. This, as it turns out, is an incredibly interesting subject. I'm going to pass straight over to Jonathan.
This all became because of Darren's, because he's been doing the meals, the lunch meals, and that's all his life revolves around is mac and cheese. Whenever I talk to him, and
this morning even, I made 100 and some odd portions of mac and cheese today.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, we should just talk about that, you know?
Yeah.
This will be, we'll
phone
this one in. It'll be easy.
I think it sort of stemmed out of the fact that as we were talking about how much mac and cheese I make, we started throwing out to each other how we make it. And it's totally different. And yeah, it sort of seemed like there was maybe a show there.
Yeah. And then I started, I went down that rabbit hole and I did a little Googling.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, I'm like, oh, mac and cheese. And then I'm looking at the history of it. And I'm like, there's some real history there. And there's some real interesting facts. And
just as a side note, yesterday I was at John's and he said, hey, we're going to do that mac and cheese episode tomorrow. And I said, oh, yeah. He proceeded to rattle off so many facts. I was literally blown away. I literally jaw dropped that for 5 straight minutes, he was just spitting facts about mac and cheese. And I was like, wow, you've really done your homework on this one. I was really surprised. I did not expect you to get totally immersed in this episode.
I really got sucked down this rabbit hole. And I was like, I poured myself a cup of coffee and I got on and pulled out some recipe books and started reading. And I was like,
he gets really obsessed with stuff.
He does.
By the way, have you two been hanging out without me?
What?
You just said
no.
We were hanging out. Now, I haven't checked my emails recently. I didn't get an invitation.
It wasn't Edible Valley stuff. There's John and I got another project that we're working on that has nothing to do with anything. But we got another project we're trying to seal the deal on, and it was just about that. So,
okay, convenient. And you got a pool table.
Yeah,
no, that's all right. No, it's okay. So the things you're going to learn today, you're going to learn a little bit about the history of macaroni. We are going to try and just limit it a little bit. There's going to be lots of history.
I got some great stuff.
He's very excited. So we're going to dive straight into that. But you're also going to learn the best ways to cook it, and also the variants of mac and cheese. There's a lot to learn.
I'm ready for that part. I got lots of things to throw in there.
Should we just start off with the facts? Just a fact.
Well, let's start off with what macaroni is. Like traditionally, macaroni is a casserole.
Actually, I feel like we need to back up one step.
Let's go back there.
The other day when we were workshopping this, I think I had said, hey, did you know the word macaroni comes from our ignorance and just say it was back in the early days when we started calling all pastas macaroni, like 200 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
And then you went and fact checked that. And you were like, excuse me, as you pushed up your glasses over the bridge of your nose.
Was that bollocks?
Yeah, apparently it wasn't. So this is all spurned from John trying to prove me wrong. So, which he does.
Well, I do.
Yeah.
There's a little bit. But that's going to go through my history lesson.
Okay.
We're going to get to it.
We're going to get to it. Okay.
But we're going to talk about the traditional macaroni and cheese that we're hopefully all accustomed to.
Sure.
Whether it comes in a box with a package Or whether it comes with a beautiful creamy bechamel sauce with cheese known as a Mornay and baked in the oven. But the main, and there's lots of variations and there's so many things we can go into it. But traditionally for me, it's a baked casserole with macaroni cheese or macaroni noodles, which are an
elbow pasta.
Elbow pasta is one form of it. And we can talk about how it's, with a bechamel or a nice creamy cheese sauce to go along with it. And so that's what I picture as, I don't know, maybe some breadcrumbs on top, but that is just a classic basic macaroni and cheese.
Well, I know it's terrible, but when I think of mac and cheese, and the reason I don't particularly like mac and cheese, and this is going to be the worst reason is I've only ever had it out a tin or a box.
What?
And if you have proper mac and cheese, it'll be delicious. But I've had it so rarely. I'm from the UK. It's less of a thing in the UK. It's fair to say, much more of a thing here. But wow, I mean, I've only ever had it out a can or a box.
What? Do you have an equivalency then? Do you have a sort of a comfort food that anybody can slap together?
I mean, there's always a few, but not mac and cheese. The mac and cheese culture, I would imagine, came from all the Italian immigrants that came to America. And
let's go back, actually.
Yeah, there we go. Encroaching on his territory.
Let's do this, because you know what? Like I've been doing some reading here. So the first macaroni, actually, yes, is in Italy. Is the first cookbook, dates back, a medieval cookbook. Oh God, I can't read my writing. Libria di Capua. I've just bastardized that.
That's all right.
I really apologize.
You've even bastardized the word.
Bastardized, I know. Yeah. Which was basically a casserole of pasta with Parmesan cheese baked in the oven.
Okay.
Which sort of comes to it. And then, around the same time in the 14th century, in Britain, under King Richard II, his chief master cook, he had come up with a recipe that was written down about hand-cut pasta sandwiched between butter and cheese and then baked, sort of like a lasagna. Wow. And so that's really along the same lines, the same eras. Right. First modern recipes come out of England. Elizabeth Randolph in 1769 wrote a cookbook, The Experience of the English Homekeeper. And her recipes, she did quite a few recipes that sort of came out, but
didn't you say something about she also was the first person with a wedding cake?
She put together a bride cake, which is sort of falls in lines of like a wedding cake of today, sort of those things. Huh. And then Eccles cakes. Sorry.
Yeah, I like.
She is claimed to be the inventor of those.
Oh, really?
Oh, they suspect that it was from her, and so.
And interesting because they're very, very good with cheese.
Yes.
Yeah, oddly. Yeah.
But she had a recipe that was basically Mornay sauce mixed with macaroni and sprinkled with Parmesan cheese.
There you go. That's macaroni.
And so that's
cheese.
the history. So, and I think that for a Canadian aspect, that's how it sort of came over to us. Now, down in the States, they have a very different thing about Thomas Jefferson.
Right.
And his chef, or at the time slave, James Hemming, which was one of the first Americans to train in Paris to be a chef, which is quite interesting. Yeah. Anyways, Jefferson fell in love with macaroni and brought it over with him.
Oh yeah.
And that's how it sort of became.
That was what made the leap.
Yeah, and so he had taken down notes on how to make a macaroni press or extruder.
Right.
So basically, you would basically form your dough. So mostly with a Durham.
I don't know if you know this, but John and I used to own a pasta shop.
Ah, yeah. And he owned a bar.
And a bar. Yeah, you used to own a bar.
No, so the extruder is where you force it through a die. You force it through a metal cut shape to get the shape that you want it. Your dough.
And so I believe traditionally in Italy, macaroni noodles were much longer. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until North Americans actually, I wouldn't say North Americans, but it sort of got cut smaller.
What was that called? Honestly, we haven't looked this up. Wasn't that bucatini? We used to do a bucatini, which was like a big hollow noodle.
Why are you looking at your phone?
Pretty sure.
What?
You're looking at your phone.
My phone's not on.
Nah, it's good. It was off the top of his head.
I know. I'm trying to. I mean,
Yeah,
I feel
but
like
that-
an idiot for not being able to recall it. We used to own a pasta shop. For
Yeah,
Christ's sake. Like
we're
I
just
said.
bragging about that. Yeah. Anyway, so a lot of the Italian style of macaroni was done with a longer noodle, and that it was when it was brought over to the States and stuff like that, they made it.
Interesting.
And the interesting part too is that he served it at a state dinner, and everyone
yeah.
hated it.
Everyone hated it.
Really?
Well, I shouldn't say hated it, but they were not very impressed with it.
Yeah.
He served it as a macaroni pie. Didn't go over so big.
People did not like it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's the American thing that we were joking about. This is with Darren is the Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Right. Stuck a feather in his cap and called it macaroni.
Right. Which is a portrayal back to a class of people in that
Right.
era. And it was actually a song written by the British to make fun of
Yeah.
the Americans.
So when John was explaining this to me yesterday, and I was like, because I'd said, oh, macaroni is just a slang term for all pasta. And he came back to me and said, no, it's not. It's for hipsters. It was essentially the hipster of the day. Is you call them
Yeah.
macaroni.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So it was the elitists who went and traveled Europe, and they had their big hairdos and
Yeah.
very tight pants and all that fun stuff. So when they came back to England and that, they brought this macaroni or pasta, and so everyone referred to them as the macaroni style.
Right.
So that's how
That's
it
how
all
it started.
goes down. It has nothing to do with macaroni and cheese. It has to do with pasta.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's how it all sort of came to be. And
Interesting.
Then, yeah.
So, excuse me.
I guess actually I haven't even talked about Canada. Jeez. We
Oh
can
yeah,
go
right.
into there.
We have a big claim to fame in the history of
Yes.
macaroni. as
The
Canadians.
greatest moment in Canadian history. No. 1937, Kraft dinner became a thing. That's it.
Oh, now I
In-
saw this, and that
Yeah,
was
and it's Canadian. It's Canadian invention.
wow. I remember
Well, he
watching
was
this.
He was
Yeah.
a Canadian, and anyways, it became a huge hit. And so in the first year of Kraft dinner, they sold 8 million boxes of Kraft dinner, and then over the war, they sold 50 million boxes of Kraft dinner over the Second World War because of during rationing and restrictions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
affordable, and I read somewhere that you could use with one
With
food
one
stamp,
token or whatever.
one food stamp, you could get 2 boxes of Kraft dinner and feed the whole family.
Great.
Yeah.
Wow. But that
Yeah.
tells you also that there's nothing good in there.
Yeah, it's just roughage.
Well, it
Yeah.
was known as a healthy meal at those times.
Oh,
it
back
was
in
like it
those
was
days, yeah.
affordable
Oh, it
and it
has
was healthy.
milk in it. I
Milk
see.
and butter, and if you really want to get healthy, you can put margarine.
Right.
I just had to pause there for a second because
Yeah.
I'm questioning that whole thought.
Yeah.
Now, here's a scary fact too, just because this
Sure.
is my it for facts, and then we'll start talking about how to make macaroni.
Okay.
And I'm gonna put that on Darren because he's the guy who cooks more macaroni than anyone else here.
Sure.
But in Canada,
Mhm.
okay, sorry, they sell 7 million boxes of Kraft dinner a year.
Okay. This is Kraft.
Of Kraft.
Okay.
Kraft dinner.
Okay.
So that's not including all our other names out there. Like there's a box of Cheetos.
John.
Yeah.
John brought a prop, and I'm pretty disgusted by it. He brought Cheetos macaroni.
Cheetos Maga. What's the other one? There's Anna's and there's
This is like the no-name brands.
the no-name brands. Anyways, so Kraft sells.
So Kraft makes 7 million.
7
It does
million.
say on the box that it's very tasty, though. So
Oh,
yeah,
there you
yeah.
go.
just saying.
They're not macaroni noodles either. I'd like to state.
No, they're spiral.
But this says mac and cheese. Anyways, Canada buys 25% of those 7.
Really?
Of the world's production of Kraft macaroni.
Is that?
Yeah, or at least that's what I
25%.
read.
Nice.
So I'm like, way to
You know
go,
what,
Canada.
I,
That is
don't want to
way
go into this too much, but way down the line, I can claim that, or point to the fact that one of my distant ancestors was Sir Walter Raleigh. One amongst many things, poet, what have you. He, consort to the Queen, but he made tobacco fashionable. He was the dude. So I used to always say, like, you can always thank my family for introducing smoking to everybody. Thank you,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
welcome.
yeah.
And now I get to say to all my American friends when I'm down there, I can also say, like, we gave you smoking and Kraft macaroni and cheese. So I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so what we were talking about, how you make it?
How to make it, because we are good old Canadians, so we know how to do it. So basically, you take 6 cups of water. You open the box.
Oh, you're talking about No.
The directions are on the side if you
about-
get confused.
I thought you wanted to talk about how to make macaroni.
No, I'm talking about the box. I'll talk about the box.
Kraft box product.
And then you pour. Once the water comes to a simmer, I always recommend salting your water.
There we go.
Yeah, there's
I
a
bet
That's
you,
quite
honestly,
posh,
Keep
isn't it?
going because I bet you there's a point here where I'm going to take umbrage. What do you do next?
Well, no, I'm going to follow the directions. So you pour your noodles in there. You bring them to a simmer for a few minutes, 4 to 5 minutes, I believe, till they're just al dente, just a bite to them.
Sure.
Drain them off, and then quickly you add your butter
Add your butter where?
to the pot that you
Okay.
just boiled your water in. You're
Cool.
going back. This is a one pot
Yeah.
dish, right?
Yeah.
Butter in there. You start melting it down. You add your milk, stir it, and then you stir in the powder. You're going to be like,
Totally disagree with you there.
Right, go on.
The way you do it, if you're doing the box product, is you put in the butter, then you put in the cheese plus powder.
yeah.
And you make almost a consistent paste out of it on that heat. And then you slowly add the freezing cold milk and you make yourself a nice thick sauce. Then you throw the macaroni in. Anyways, that's the box style, and that's the way I've taught my kids to do it when they want it. But we don't eat any of that stuff anymore because of the sheer volume of macaroni that I make now.
when I show up at 12 o'clock at night after a long day, usually it all goes in at the same time.
Yeah. All right. Well,
That is
this is the way I
interesting.
do it. And this is, I don't have a scaled down version, but I suppose you could do it. But I mean, I literally make this a couple times a week because of all the different catering I do. So I do like a pound of butter. So like a half a brick of butter for Canadians. And then I do a full cup of flour and I melt that butter, then add the flour and make a nice roux. And I'm going to cook that roux for at least 5 minutes. I'm not getting necessarily a blonde roux, but I want color to change and I want the texture to change to where it's almost velvety again, you know, instead of like chunky. And then that's when I add my milk, probably about a liter and a bit of milk in little dose, like about a cup at a time. And then once I get that to the consistency that I like,
Don't forget constantly stirring.
yeah, constantly stirring. And once that's to a consistency, like once it's all of the same consistency, regardless if I'm going to cook it down a bit or what have you, that's when I add my seasonings. So to that, I would do a quarter teaspoon of white pepper. I would do a quarter teaspoon of garlic salt, a quarter teaspoon of mustard powder, and a half teaspoon of onion powder. And then I'm going to get those well incorporated. And then that's when you bring out your cheeses. So for cheese, overall, I'm looking for almost 3 cups. I'm looking for about 2.5 to 3 cups. And I'll usually do some mozza for texture to give it the stringiness.
Yeah.
And then cheddar for flavor. And then I want something, like I'll go with like a medium cheddar. But then,
Right.
and that's sort of the body of the flavor.
So double cheddar.
Yeah, no, cheddar and the mozza, and then whatever after. So if I have another like Asiago or Parmesan or something sharp that's going to give it a little, I'll do like
Little
a half
zip
cup
to
of
it.
that.
Yeah.
How about a blue?
You could, I suppose you could. I mean, it would probably really pervert the color. The color would be like whatever. But yeah, and that's it. And then just like John said with pasta, you know, you cook your pasta in lots of it, like an excessive amount of water. Give it room to breathe and heavily salt that water. Barely any of that salt's going into your pasta, but it'll give it enough to.
Yeah.
I mean, you're draining it off.
Yeah, you
and
drain
then
it
adding
and
the
just
sauce.
throw it all in, and then that's the beginning, and then I add a whole bunch of stuff after. But
Nice.
And now, if I was going to do this traditionally, I would throw it in a nice casserole dish.
yeah,
Put some more cheese on it because you can never have enough cheese on it.
yeah,
And then I like a bit of little breadcrumbs,
yes.
right?
So
Like,
so
you
yeah,
get a
so the
little bit
point,
of crumbs,
the point where I got
crumbliness.
to, yeah, that's the point where before I added the cheese, that was a bechamel,
Yeah.
a flavored bechamel. And then the point when you add the cheese, it becomes a mornay, which is essentially what. So yeah, so at some people will finish it with a little bit more bechamel, but some people will top it with a little mornay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what, man, I know that recipe off the back of my hand because I make it so often.
How about a fried egg on top?
Oh, but the burger episode was a while ago. No, I quite often put bacon. That seems to be something that people quite like.
Yeah.
I guess it sort of harkens back to when people used to do chopped up hot dogs in it, which disgusts me.
Oh man,
Yeah, that
is
disgusting. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
just makes my day. I
So
love
so
it.
I'll
Makes me
do
happy
bacon, but
inside.
then today, like I always have a little pasta left over, and today the leftover, I took a big heaping spoon of pesto, mixed that into that mac and cheese that I had, and that was pretty good.
Well, I like to mix it up a bit. Like I have done so many different macaronis over the years. Like bacon's always a nice one. I love like even throwing jalapenos in there for a little bit of spice is nice. Fresh tomato, or even
not so
roasted
much.
tomato works.
Roast tomato, I'm game on the roast tomato, but not the fresh tomato.
You know what? You can do like sautéed onions. We'll be working there with like peppers and leeks. Fresh herbs. You know,
I'm gonna say too, like don't just make your macaroni and then throw these things in. Sort of plan which of these things you're throwing in, and maybe decide the cheese that goes into that sauce.
that's
complement
another
it,
good option too. Yeah, for sure.
Chive's good. Chive is fantastic.
Ham's good in there.
Yeah, chive's good. Yeah.
Chives are good in there.
Both of those are good at the same time.
Yeah.
Ham and
You know
chive,
what
that's
you
the one
can do?
I give my kids a lot.
Canned salmon or tuna, and then you make it into like a
Oh my god,
tuna
that takes
casserole.
me back.
Yeah,
my
tuna's
mom,
quite old
my
school.
mom, like 1979, I would have been like 3, 4. I remember that circuit. I remember specifically because of the apartment we used to live in. She used to make tuna casserole a lot, and it was that. It was mac and cheese, her homemade mac and cheese, and she would mix a can of tuna into it.
You'd call that a bake, wouldn't you?
Now,
Yeah.
back then they used to call that a tuna casserole.
I like you throwing your green vegetables in there.
Yeah.
There's best way to get kids to eat broccoli.
Absolutely. And you know what the best way to do that is? Chop up your broccoli to bite-sized pieces. In the last 3 minutes of boiling the water of the pasta,
Oh yeah.
you just throw the broccoli in. And then so when you drain the pasta, you're also draining the broccoli. It's so easy. It's so easy. Literally.
Yeah. And then just throw it in there. The other one, if you're just really need a quick one, peas.
Yeah.
Frozen peas out of the freezer. You
Yeah.
can just grab them, throw them right in there.
They're such a hero.
Adds a little bit of extra flavor.
I'm playing around with something. I'm trying to make a kid appealing pesto right now. As I'm always doing, I'm always workshopping and writing recipes and stuff. But so I'm thinking about doing a pea pesto.
Oh.
And next year, and offering green mac and cheese, where I mix in a little bit of that pea pesto after I've made the mac and cheese.
Sounds
And just,
interesting.
I don't know. Do kids want to eat green noodles? I don't know.
Green eggs
like I
and
want to
ham?
I kind of want to see where it goes.
Sounds
how you
Yeah.
tell them it is, but
Yeah.
slime or something.
We'll see. We'll see.
I
always have some
gotta
things out,
do one of my favorite mac and cheeses
Yeah.
that I did at the restaurant for a while there, and I should bring it
Oh
back.
my
'cause
God.
I loved it.
I know which one you're talking about.
Saffron macaroni with pork belly,
That was a fantastic one.
That sounds good.
It was.
and I think that was Christopher Thrift's idea.
It was Chris Thrift.
Yeah, I throw that out to him, and I remember eating it and being like feeling my arteries clog up and just be like,
Do you know what the saving grace on that dish, though? The saving grace was that we didn't give people the option to swap the salad. We said, you're eating greens, and it's going to have our very nice citrus vinaigrette, and that's it. And because if you ate that pasta and that pork belly, and you didn't have something acidic and light and vegetable to cut it, you just felt horrible. But for some reason, that balance just made it okay. You were like, okay. Yeah.
And I think that was when he made it, and I was just like eating it, and I was like, oh. And there was just like some salad greens in there with the dressing, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, it was
I'm
perfect.
Like, oh, that's perfect. Just saved me right there. So, but
such a good dish.
Such a beautiful dish. I was thinking of some other things. I want to talk a little bit about cheese, but right now, let's talk about some of the crazy things that we can do with it.
Didn't we just talk about the crazy things?
Well, no, we haven't, because we haven't talked about macaroni pizza.
What?
Oh, wow.
This is a thing.
Do you know what Matt? Okay, do you know what Matt? Matt is a guy that we work with. Matt the other day said, "I'm not going to say what because I'm not ready to reveal this to the public yet, but I've been working on the next junk food. I'm like, I want to create a junk food that takes the country by storm, and so I had this idea. Anyways, Matt said, "Oh, I've had something similar, but not the same. I've had something like that," and he said he had deep fried macaroni sticks.
I've got it right here.
I was
deep
like,
fried
what?
macaroni sticks. So you bake it as your casserole, cut it up, roll it, bread it, fry it.
Yeah.
Dun 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 dun.
Oh my god!
Think about this molten cheesy mess. It just cracks open
That's
and
too
cracks.
much. That's too much.
That could be really good.
It could be just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And all food is good, right? So
Sure.
the other one is just what were you saying about this? Taking macaroni and putting it in a pie.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
baking it as a pie.
Yeah.
Like taking the best of both worlds. Comfort food, pie, comfort food,
Yeah.
macaroni.
Just that is an amazing idea, actually. Yeah. Yeah. Macaroni pot pie.
Yes. Well, that's it.
That's it? That's all your ideas?
No. I mean, well, here's the thing is, does macaroni have to be made with elbow macaroni or can we do other shapes?
Well, this. If you speak to the good people at Cheetos, they've
Edible
answered
Valley
your question.
Podcast.
They've gone spiral.
Now sponsored by Cheetos. No, I'm kidding. There's no sponsorship. We're just
no,
ridiculing
they wouldn't.
it.
They didn't reply to us.
No. They have higher standards than us.
Yeah, so that's like a spiral. So is that like a mock sort of like a not a rotini? Yeah, rotini. Is that what that
Yeah.
is supposed to be?
But I'm thinking like you could do fusilli. It's something that you want a noodle that will capture the sauce and hold the sauce really tight in there.
So then wouldn't penne be really good? Or is penne almost too big?
Penne can be too big in some ways. I mean, I like little shells. You know, the little mini cup shells. Those are great because they actually they're little spoons of
Little cup. Oh, those ones. Yeah, the little.
the mini shells.
I can't remember the name of them.
Yes.
But yeah.
I used to love we had the Scooby-Doo noodles, which are no longer made anywhere, but they were kind of a spiral noodle with a cup in it. So
Oh yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
yeah. And there's so many different names. I'm not even going there, but I think anything that's got a little bit of a tube and a bit of a spiral that can hold that sauce in there is good for doing.
It holds onto the sauce.
That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
Now I want to know about cheese.
Well, it's cheddar, right? I don't know. I fall back to this cheddar thing, but there's so many good other cheeses like Gruyere, Gouda, Havarti.
No.
So you've
Havarti's got the creaminess to it.
I don't know. I've tried it with Havarti and I'm not a fan.
Not a fan. No, that's fair.
But yeah.
It's got some of those textures. I'm thinking of some of our local cheeses around here, like the farmhouse.
Aged farmhouse.
Aged farmhouse would have like a real sharp bite to it and just be like.
So we're not. Again, we're not sponsored by Natural Pastures, but we're fans. But yeah, the Verdelet would be fantastic.
Verdelet would be good.
Parmedamer.
I'd even use their cumin Verdelet would be like to get that.
Oh yeah.
You could have that really like curry.
Well, that's something that you were saying too. You were saying you read a recipe and somebody had included mace, and you were kind of off about that, and I thought, I think nutmeg would actually, which mace is just the shell of the nutmeg, but like I think nutmeg it has a place if you want that nuttiness, like it works in that.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of some of our other cheeses like down south, like we've got Qualicum Cheese Factory, right?
Yeah.
Like they've got their Qualicum spice cheese has got a nice spicy thing, which would make it beautiful. It's creamy. I use that as in a lot of my sauces at work. So.
Oh, do you?
How about a brie?
Like one of the unripened cheeses, like brie or camembert. I think you'd lose it. Like any benefit that you would think you would be getting from it, you don't think you'd get because you're already making the cream sauce.
I did see Jackknife Pizza are doing a brie on a pizza now.
Oh, I had it.
You had that?
I had it on the beach up at Saratoga.
Wow. What was it like?
Well, I was laying on my towel in the sun with
I don't want to know
the waves tickling against my
what
toes.
You were wearing, please.
With my tight Speedo. And I was laying there with a beautiful piece of brie on a pizza.
You took a picture of that.
I did take a picture of that. I think you
just painted the picture well enough that I remember you actually took a photo of that.
I got a couple different pizzas of theirs. It was amazing. I had such a good time up there, and it was such a perfect pizza for being on the beach. They had the one with the pickle on it that I'm blanking on what was all on there, but that was delicious.
Interesting.
And yes, this whole wheel of brie cheese on there was just like
I really like those guys. The Jackknife, they were on this. Like 20 something episodes ago, going back like 40, 50 episodes. I think we had Gorilla Pizza on.
Yeah, that was a long.
The other day, well, I say the other
Actually,
day,
no,
it was
we
probably-
never had Gorilla Pizza on.
No,
we
no.
had Gorilla Foods.
We had Gorilla Foods. That's right. We had Jason with Gorilla Foods, who went on to do Gorilla Pizza. But I had one of his pizzas, and honestly, my brother talks him up, and I was like, well, it's just pizza. And then I had one the other day. It's not. It's not just pizza. It's amazing. I can absolutely understand why people go crazy over their pizza. It's amazing.
Now I'm just wondering when they're going to come out with a macaroni pizza.
Yeah. Oh, that's why we're talking
That's
about
what we're talking about. We're trying to get a macaroni pizza. And no, we're talking
what is
about
that? So is that a pizza completely covered with macaroni? Or is that a pizza crust made of macaroni?
Ooh. Ooh, now mind blown. No, I'm thinking actually the macaroni on the pizza.
I don't know.
With some nice cheddar cheese. Yeah. Anyways, just a thought there. Put those out to those two places, see what happens.
Sure.
But and what I was thinking about with the brie cheese that I would do with the macaroni is on top when you go to do a casserole and bake it in the oven.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
I can see the brie cheese melting on there because you get a nice bubbly crust to it, and it'd be beautiful.
But it might take away from the overall. The bitterness might come through too much and just be a bit odd.
I would eat. You know what? I had a brie cheese burrito today, so I'm.
What is wrong?
Where did you get that from?
I made it.
You made it.
That's a John concoction.
I had some caramelized onions and apples and brie cheese. And a little bit of chicken, and I just rolled it in a burrito and threw it in a frying pan.
That actually sounds amazing.
It was, yeah. I'm pretty good at this.
The brie, the apple, the chicken, all of that. That sounds amazing.
I was missing some nuts for some real crunch. Okay, so we've done this macaroni thing. I think we've gotten a good picture of what we all feel about macaroni.
I'm surprised we did an episode on macaroni, to be honest. I did not know that this was coming.
I'm excited about it. I want to talk more about the history, but I don't think anyone has the patience to listen to me.
Well, write in if you're listening and you want John to finish what he's talking about. We can do a follow-up where John goes more on the history
if you want
of
it,
macaroni and cheese. If the fans demand it, we will deliver.
That'll be on our Patreon site. So if you become a subscriber to the Edward Valley podcast, for just $1 a month, you can listen to me talk about macaroni and cheese history. Okay, boys, we got one last thing to talk about that we haven't touched.
Oh my God, I see it
this
right
is
there.
Gonna
I see your
Darren
notes.
Throw up on us. It's okay. This is very Canadiano of the mac and cheese, but
oh, I can see where this is going.
Yeah.
Nothing but the red nectar of the god.
Ketchup. As Michelle used to call it, somebody that we worked with for a long time. Sauce American.
Sauce Americano.
Ketchup. Slathered in ketchup.
That's an abomination.
I'm not
I knew
fan.
I was going to use that word.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of ketchup.
You know what? It took me a lot of years. And still not a huge fan. But I have done it.
Yeah.
And it adds a bit of a character to it.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm not going to knock anyone for doing it. Especially if you got hot dog wieners in your mac and cheese.
Sorry, I shouldn't say that. Yeah, they have each to their own.
It's a low budget, fill you up, keep you full all day meal. And you're getting all the vegetables. You're getting your wheat, your dairy.
You know what you just reminded me of?
You're getting your vegetables.
What are you talking about? This isn't a rounded meal. Ketchup's not a vegetable. Ketchup's not a vegetable. I made for my son. We don't have. You can cut me off wherever, but I made for my son. I called it. What did I call it? The four horsemen of the the four horsemen of the apocalypse. And I took a big thing of mac and cheese. I had bacon. I had pepperoni. I had pulled pork, and I had diced ham. And I mixed them all in and baked it off for him. And he literally had tears in his eyes because he's a big fan of pork. He literally had tears in his eyes and he asked if I'd please make that all the time. And I was like, no, that is not healthy for you. That was a one-time deal. Not healthy at all. But yeah, anyways, we were talking about variations. And that one just fucking hit me. Yeah, and I am going to copyright the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse.
Okay.
I love that.
Also on our Patreon site, a copy of Darren's recipe for.
Okay, well, this has been the Edible Valley podcast.
That was brilliant. I liked it. As always, I'm hungry now for what we've been talking about.
And I hope no one's disappointed in us and questioning our.
I think
behaviors.
we actually took ourselves down a notch today.
Did we? Yeah.
Whatever people thought of us, it's now one step lower.
I feel like we've done a proud service to macaroni and cheese because I think it's not just a quick meal. I think there's, when you mix some cheese and mix some of these great ingredients, then you have something that's.
Yeah, I'd be
Definitely.
happy to talk with anybody about if anybody wants to text, message, mail, snail mail, send a courier. Whatever you would like to do. I'm happy to talk about what things would go really well with macaroni because literally I do this all day.
One thing we didn't mention and we shouldn't go into necessarily, but the traditional Sunday roast. I've seen on occasions no roast potatoes, but mac and cheese instead.
Yeah,
which is very North American.
Very.
Yeah.
I mean, I travel a lot throughout North America and like down south. It's not even an option to not have macaroni as a choice. You have to have, every restaurant has macaroni as a choice for side. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just ubiquitous. Like it's
Nice.
like we have like with potatoes,
Yeah.
Sure enough.
Amazing. Well, that was it. That was Edible Valley Podcast episode 210, mac and cheese. I learned a lot, so thank you very much. The 3 things I learned are doesn't have to be it can be spiral. Absolutely. Invented in Canada.
Yay!
Well,
And
Kraft
doesn't-
dinner.
Yeah. The Kraft dinner. And doesn't go well with brie, but it's good to have mozzarella in there for the texture.
Yes.
So thank you very much.
All right. Thanks for listening.
And that wraps up another episode of the Edible Valley Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and a special thanks goes to the local businesses that help support our podcast. They make it possible for us to showcase your local food community. We'd love you to follow us on your preferred social media at Edible Valley, where you can check out our blog, find recipes and tips, behind the scenes, and of course keep a lookout for where we are going to turn up next in your Edible Valley.
I didn't even know Facebook had a podcast.
Well, and
thing.
then I was like, is it that I'm not allowed to post our Facebook?
No, that's what I thought first, and that's why I started reading
Yeah.
into it. I'm like, I guess they had a feature that I wasn't even aware of. So
Yeah, and then I Googled it. I went to search for a podcast on there, and it came up with a bunch of groups. I'm like, this is garbage.
they have the one single biggest promotional tool known to this generation, and they didn't even promote that thing that they have.
I know.
Facebook's
This has
eating
been.
Yeah, it could have been.
Yeah. Beep, 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 beep. Okay, ready again?